Hi, this is Billie here with another segment of U.S. News by Billie, episode 60. Today's date, August 28, 2023. Some of the things we'll be covering: Maui, 17 states next, and Ebola. Some of my sources are God in the Bible, Patriot subscriber, Joshua Phillip, World News Report, Beforeitsnews, Benjamin Fulford, another interview, Mike Adams with Will Spenser, and New York Times. So, let's get started. Okay, we have Benjamin Fulford is a Canadian journalist who's lived in Japan for decades. He has a lot of good contacts globally. He knows a lot of stuff. So recently we have Canada, we've got the U.S., we've got, this will be Africa, Canary Islands. I got that going on. Okay, Hawaii. All right. So now, Benjamin Fulford is talking about the deep state using directed energy weapons in Hawaii. We saw that with Maui, and we'll do an update on Lahaina in that area. And now we see it's also going on in Yellowknife, Canada, and they're evacuating something like 20,000 people from this area. It's also going on in this second Canary Island, Santa Cruz, and the Tenerife volcano is located there. So these are all areas that Benjamin Fulford says the deep state is using directed energy weapons to clear the populations out because the deep state wants these areas. So they're just killing everyone that's there. So far in Maui, it's believed we have 6,000 to 10,000 people, U.S. citizens, slaughtered. And we have missing something like, or disappeared, 2,000 to 3,000 children. That's in Maui alone. And they're still over this area, have a no TAM, a no flight. And in my recent video, I brought that out, that you couldn't even use drones to fly over. And so far, we know that washed up on the shore is 183 bodies so far. So that's going on. Now, what Benjamin Fulford is bringing out, Hawaii had been a forced annexation by the U.S. They had been an independent nation and had not wanted to become a U.S. state, but it was forced on them by the shadow U.S. government, the shadow NATO, some years ago. And they wanted to pursue becoming, again, an independent nation. And the deep state said no to an independent Hawaii. And we have a lot of deep staters like Zuckerberg, Rockefeller, from Kenya, remember him? And Oprah, yeah, all on the Hawaiian Islands. And Benjamin Fulford says they consider these places to be isolated, good places. Hawaii, Canada, and Canary Islands location. And so, yeah. And he's coming out. Yeah, you see cars melt and trees standing. It's an indication a deep state weapon was used. Yep. So that's going on. And also in other places it had been used. And I had Patriot subscribers also bring that up. Paradise, California, Santa Rosa, Thousand Oaks, yeah. And Benjamin Fulford is just saying that this was the deep state taking these locations out, slaughtering people, burning them to death, disappearing children, and taking over the properties. And now we have that in Maui, the insurance companies are not going to pay. And now it's coming out, they're not going to pay because this is considered an act of war. So, that's going on. Now, Judy Byington had brought this out. Also, Mike from around the world is regularly on Pastor Paul Begley's Thursday night program. We believe Mike works for the NSA. Mike knows stuff. Said, the fires in Maui were soon going to come to the U.S. West Coast. Judy Byington has this. 17 more states are designated as areas for the deep state to use these directed energy weapons because they want the land cheap, they want the people gone, and then they want to put in smart cities and lock down the populations. And these are Nevada, Wyoming, Oklahoma, Idaho, Colorado, Montana, Washington State, Florida near Orlando, and we have a hurricane developing there. Texas, close to Austin. Arizona, and close to Scottsdale. New Jersey, New Mexico, Oregon, close to Portland. California, Mississippi, Utah. And in Utah, a smart city has already been dedicated near Salt Lake City. So I would say they may want to begin their fires in Salt Lake City then. Also in, Medicine Lake, Spokane, Oregon, are fires burning for the same reason. Also near Maryville, Louisiana, and Beauregard Parish. And I've reported on those recently. Now, Judy reports this regarding banks, that we can expect to see the banks close for 5 days, September 1 through 5, while they are all upgrading a software upgrade to align with QFS, Quantum Financial System. And that we can expect soon to see U.S. martial law. We can expect to see a testing of the EBS system soon. It's good to stock up on food and water. While the banks are closed for 5 days, your debit and credit cards will not work and the ATMs will not work. So I guess get some cash. That would be good. Okay, now I'll move on to the second topic I'm covering today, which is Ebola. And we'll see how the deep state is operating inside the U.S. Via the U.S. shadow government, CDC, and the U.S. NIH and other so-called health segments of our government. Okay. So I'm bringing this out. Recently, we had that statement by the CDC, which I considered bizarre, and now it's becoming clearer. This was simply a deep state act. So the Center for Disease Control last week, as reported by Hal Turner, and now it's coming out from other sources, said, if you received pharma in the arm for the COVID-19, that makes you more likely to be infected with the new variant that is out, which is a form of hemorrhagic fever that would include Ebola. And now we have a source. Mike Adams interviewed Will Spenser, who heads up a lab. I'll go into more detail about that, who says now they are seeing cases of this variant right here. So we'll go over this, because I've been seeing this signs of this for years. So, yeah. All right. So now we'll talk about the movie Outbreak. That's a movie that details Ebola-like fever, disease spreading to a selected U.S. population. Now, I, like thousands of other biology teachers every year, would make sure my students saw this movie, Outbreak. We would usually show it that last week or so of school when we were reviewing for finals. And then, because we wanted our students to be exposed to certain concepts. Now, in the movie, it demonstrates accurately what an Ebola-like infection would look like if it were airborne. And what does airborne mean? It's like you and I have a cold or flu, and we walk into a store, we're breathing out. That cold or flu infection is in the air that we just expelled. Someone else comes along and breathes in that air, and they can catch the cold or flu that we have. It's called airborne. Now, Jimmy Payne was interviewed by Super Soldier Talk, James Rink, some years ago, and said, "This movie shows you what Ebola would look like if it were weaponized and airborne." So, yeah, it's a good movie to watch. And you also find out what are bio-level 4 suits and protection that is needed to protect you against a bio-level 4 infectious material. And if you were in the lab working with it, something like Ebola, you would have everything, the whole gear on, plus a separate oxygen level. You wouldn't even be breathing the air. Now, in January 21 of 2022, we had a monkey accident in the U.S., and that's when I gained Patriot subscribers from the island of Mauritius. So this is Africa, and Mauritius is right here, a little island that has a lot of monkey labs. Now we understand we have a lot of monkey labs in Florida. I think Joshua Phillip also reported on monkey labs in Florida. Okay. So, on January 21, 2022, we had a shipment of 100 monkeys come from Mauritius over to, that was the Kennedy Airport in New York City, where it was picked up by 2 trucks who had come from Florida. And they picked them up at the airport, and they took them over to Philadelphia. And they were followed in a separate car by representative supervisors with the Department of Health of the state of Pennsylvania. On the way, there was an accident. And these monkeys, there was 100 cages of them, were strewn about the highway. And some motorists stopped. And one lady saw the cages, and she thought they were cats. And she went up to one and put her finger in. The monkey hissed at her. She received saliva in her eye. And she also stepped into some monkey feces. So she was immediately rushed. And while she was approaching the cage and got down there, this supervisor from the Department of Pennsylvania Health Department, get away, move away, don't touch. So obviously they knew something was up with these monkeys. They took her and immediately put her into a hospital that also had an adjacent lab where some of these monkeys were going to be dropped off, I believe, or looked at. And she received 2 doses of rabies and antibiotic eye drops, antiviral medication immediate. Okay, and after that, there was no follow-up with how did she fare. We don't really know. But this is an example of something going on, and this is 2022, going on with the monkeys. So after they got the monkeys up, 3 of them escaped. They tracked them down and euthanized them. And they took the other 97 monkeys, unless they left some at the lab in Philadelphia, down to a quarantine lab in Florida. All right. So it's very suspicious. But that's going on. That I did a follow-up for in the New York Times this morning. Now, the airline that had flown these monkeys from Mauritius to Kenya Airways, after the accident, they went out of business. So that happened. And the lady was Michelle Fallon, 45, and she was treated. And she also thanked a Dr. Lisa Engel, who is a primate specialist, for advice. Yeah, so that went on. So we see something was going on then. Now, Mike Adams, health ranger, interviewed a Will Spenser. And he has, and I recommend you watch that interview. It's on Beforeitsnews. Will Spenser, and he has a company, and they do hair samples, and apparently they have cutting edge detection methods, because they can detect up to 250,000 vitamin deficiencies or diseases or allergies or whatever. Okay. So I knew about this new variant being talked about by the CDC and NIH, who I don't really trust. But so at any rate, this Will Spenser is saying that they are already diagnosing positive for this variant that is a hemorrhagic fever. So now, I'll explain what is hemorrhagic fever. And also that the CDC is saying if you receive the former for the arm and for C19, you're more susceptible to catching this. That's what the CDC is publicly saying. All right. Now we'll go over hemorrhagic fever, which is, Ebola is an example of a hemorrhagic fever. Hemorrhagic fever. So it includes dengue, Ebola, Lassa, Marburg, yellow fever, and there's generally no cure for it. There's really not a pharma for the arm recognized that can cure it. And some of the symptoms are what you would normally have with the flu, fever, fatigue, dizzy, muscle, bone, joint pain, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. But as it progresses, you have kidney and respiratory issues, kidney and liver failure. But a primary symptom with the cold or flu symptoms would be a rash, because this disease stops your blood from clotting, and it also makes your blood vessels leak. So you would have a rash, and you would have bruising. Bruising is just when you have a bruise on your skin, that's you've hit it and blood has come to the surface. So that's what you would see along with these flu symptoms. Now, how is it spread? It's spread person to person, or you can get it by exposing yourself to a person's fluids. This would be saliva, blood, semen. You can also get it if you touch a surface that also contains the infected person or animals. You can also get it from animals by either touching something they've touched if they're infected or eating the meat. And you can also get it from a surface or from animals or person-to-person contact. So it's not being described as being airborne. It's described as being a surface touch. And also the dead bodies are still infectious. In my opinion, they should be cremated, but if someone in your family dies from a hemorrhagic fever, absolutely no one should be touching that body except trained and uniformed, outfitted with hazmat outfits, because the dead body is still infectious. Okay, and you can get it from some insects that carry it, like some mosquitoes or some ticks. All right, and by being exposed to an infected person or animal's feces or urine. Now, typically after exposure, you would not show symptoms for 2 to 21 days. The average with Ebola is 10 days. And then death follows in 50 to 90% of the cases within 2 to 5 days. So when I heard this information coming from this Will Spenser, that their testing facility was already picking up positive tests for the variant, which is hemorrhagic fever, it's time to bring this information out and talk about it and definitely pray against it. Okay. And World News Report is also bringing this out, that he had a report from the CDC, and they're saying that some wastewater plants in the U.S. are testing positive for this new variant. The CDC did not list the geographic areas, but that's simply another report. So that's going on. Now let's talk about masks. I know in the past, well, we had the C-19. We had C-19. We had masks. A lot of controversy. We had lockdowns. And I assure you, if there's a widespread incident of this hemorrhagic fever, Ebola-like disease spreading, we will have lockdowns again. Now let's talk about masks, because there was controversy. A lot of people said the mask doesn't protect you from taking in the C-19 virus. That's true, I believe, now. But what the mask does is keeps you from spreading out what you would have. So if everyone is masked, you would have a safer health environment, I believe. And they were talking about the little paper mask did nothing. So the mask that I plan to begin wearing, because I'm taking this seriously, is this. I bought it from, see, it's got this elastic here and the little things to go over your ears, this fabric. Now, I bought this from Amazon, $20, because it's a the material protects you more against the sun rays. I do a lot of facials, I wear retinol products, and we know that the electromagnetic shield around the earth is weaker. It lets in more UV rays. So I thought, well, when I'm if I'm outside for any length of time in the sun, I'll wear this. And so I have this. But now, with this spreading and this incident, a positive test for something like Ebola, I believe I'll begin wearing it when I go shopping now. Just me. Now, also mask, and with the C virus, also you wanted to protect your eyes. So I definitely recommend wearing some kind of eye protection. You could wear your shades or your regular glasses, or you can even, from the dollar store, I think I've seen little safety glasses, clear plastic, something over your eyes, over your face, and gloves, because the Ebola, the hemorrhagic fever, can also attach to surfaces. So yeah, that's going on. So a short prayer. I'm going to do King James Version, Psalms 23 now. A download from God several years ago, and this passage we talk about rod and staff. And what I got from God was the rod and staff is in us, the DNA from God. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So we say, thank you, God the Father, God the Son, Jesus, whom many call Yeshua, and God the Holy Spirit. I say to my family and friends, remain steady out there. Continue to pray. It is good to remember God is in charge and he is on the move. I love you, and I'll see you soon.